Human capital development in the nation's capital takes the focus this week on Dateline Abuja as we speak with an expert in this field to help us understand if Abuja's infrastructure growth is at par with human capital development in the FCT. At the recent media chat of the FCT minister, he decried the trend of people stealing public infrastructure, and he made us wonder why. Is poverty an excuse for criminality? Is the government focusing on infrastructure and ignoring the quality of life of the humans in the environment? The Nigerian Capital Development Fund say they've spent 15 years mobilizing resources and fostering partnerships that drive economic development, promote entrepreneurship, and create opportunities for sustainable growth in Nigeria. They say they have 20,000 plus jobs created, 50,000 farmers empowered, over 100 affordable homes delivered, 500 startups supported, and over 200 financial institutions strengthened. We have a sit down with the chairman of the fund to examine the challenges of the past 15 years and plans for the next 15 years, especially in the area of human capital development in the nation's capital. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Magwa. Let's start off with an update on the major stories from Nigeria's presidency.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has called out the chairman of the People's Democratic Party's Governors Forum, Bala Mohammed, and the chairman of the party's Board of Trustees, Aldofos Wabara, for bad leadership. The minister was speaking during his first media chat for the year 2025 at his official residence in Abuja. While speaking on developments in the FCT, Mr. Wike says his administration is currently working on a security architecture where daily activities of the FCT will be monitored. President Bola Tinubu has expressed sadness over the fuel tanker explosion which caused the death of over 80 people, with many more also injured. The devastating explosion occurred on Saturday at Diko Junction, Gurara local government area of Niger State, leading to an immense human toll. In a statement signed by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Nanuga, the president mourned the victims and expressed his condolences to the families affected, as well as to the government and people of Niger State. The president has directed the provision of comprehensive medical care to the injured and instructed security and road safety authorities to implement measures to avert similar incidents. President Tinubu strongly advised all citizens to exercise caution and avoid approaching accident sites, especially those involving fuel-laden vehicles due to their highly explosive nature. Additionally, the president mandated the National Orientation Agency to initiate a nationwide educational campaign to raise public awareness about the severe risks and environmental dangers of scooping fuel from falling tankers. The First Lady of Nigeria, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, is advocating the need for Nigerian youths to be empowered to enable them achieve their full potential. Speaking in Abuja at the commissioning of the National Youth Service Corps Digital Museum of Dynamic History, Mrs. Tinubu says the resilient spirit of Nigerian youths is admired all over the world. The First Lady explained that the National Youth Service Corps remains a veritable platform that integrates national unity in addition to promoting youth inclusiveness. Vice President Kashim Shettima arrived in Davos, Switzerland, where he represented Nigeria at the 2025 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. Speaking at a forum at the event titled Roadmap to Co-Create Investment Opportunities for Africa's Frontier Markets, Vice President Shettima says serious investors can take unfettered advantage of Nigeria's growing investment climate to tap from the limitless opportunities in the country and the African continent. Vice President Shettima, alongside other global leaders attending the World Economic Forum, are pushing for the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which they say can boost the continent's economy to $29 trillion by 2050. At a breakfast meeting on the sideline of the event, the Vice President assured of Nigeria's readiness to spearhead the agreement through digital transformation and economic integration of Africa.
How do we ensure human capital development isn't on the decline while we focus on infrastructure development? Does that balance matter? And if it does, what should the government and the FCT administration be doing to ensure this delicate balance is kept? My guest today is Mr. Hareta Babatunde Oralusi, Executive Chairman, Nigerian Capital Development Fund Group. Honorable Oralusi, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you.
I mean, we've been listening to the FCT minister talk about infrastructure, the conversation about theft of manhole covers, and it's not just manhole covers. People don't realize over the years, light poles, traffic lights, all kinds of infrastructure, cameras. People have been stealing these things for years. And while, the FCT administration is trying to come up with some kind of way around it, maybe stiffer punishments for these people when they're caught, or trying to see if they can make these materials out of things that cannot be smelted, maybe make them plastic or whatever it is that if you put in the fire, it would burn up, While that is going on, the human capital element is what's really got our attention. Is there a deficit? Are we building infrastructure and forgetting the humans in the environment?
Yes, I think I agree with you. There is deficit in human capital development in Nigeria. I think this has been mentioned by different strong stakeholders. I remember Bill Gates, the last visit to Nigeria a few years ago, he mentioned that Nigeria needs to invest critically on human development. It is critical to any sustainable society to invest, because if you build infrastructure, it is still human that will manage it. And if you do not invest in your citizens, at the end of the day, there is no level of economic development you are building that will actually give results at the lower level, because it has to go from one stage to the other. So every stage of stakeholder that is involved and the beneficiary must have the capacity to understand what you're doing. So if you do not factor human development in your infrastructural objective or development, at the end of the day, it's like somebody who is building a house without foundation, because it's going to be driven by the human. And if this human does not have the capacity, then how do you sustain it in the long term? So you cannot remove human development, even though you are talking about infrastructural development. I'll give you a case study to make it very practical. I'll give you a case study of when in London, the Westminster Council wanted to sell Paddington Police Station. Paddington Police Station is popular when you get to, Westminster. And they did not look for the richest construction company or the biggest developer to come and buy. What was used as a requirement to get the best developer is social values. They want developers that will give a clear social value for that infrastructure to be developed. So there is a company by name Barclays Development who got the job. So I was curious to know what are the social value proposition. The company said, we will take this particular property. We will use private sector funding to develop it, and we will not give you government any money for the land. But this is what we'll do. During this project, we will have 100 internship. People graduate from university in the construction area. We will employ them to come and learn skills from those professionals who we have to understand how it works. So you've created 100 professionals. 2, we have direct and indirect employment of about 1,000 in the community. They've given you 1,000 jobs. 3, they also propose that we will build 2 massive social housing which will be donated to you. So they will build 2 high-rise, big high-rise within the facility, and these particular properties will be donated to you to give for homeless or social people who you wanted to give the property to as a social housing. Revenue for you will come from taxes from the off-takers.
What kind of partnerships, and I want you to be able to talk about what your fund does, and what kind of partnerships we can see in that way for the FCT?
Yes, the Nigerian Capital Development Fund, actually, we are also trying to position ourselves right now with the current, because again, you need, people have to have the willingness to do the right thing before you can do things like this. You must really, like somebody described the president of Nigeria yesterday, that we had a meeting, one of very respected elite Nigerian, that he has the will and he has the guts to do the right thing in Nigeria, which is not common. So when you see the sign, then many people will come around, like us will come around and say, okay, we have a solution. If we want to invest in housing, you have to ask us, we invested in housing, but previously we need to explain this model. You go to a ministry, you are explaining to them. They are not used to that. They just want you to hear, okay, you build 10 houses, you do this, you do that, and that's all. They do not understand what it means by, okay, look, because for us, we are not investing for only financial gain. Every investment must align with financial and social values in the society, social impact, because our investors are not the conventional investors. Particularly the foreign investors are very concerned that every little of their money add values to people's life and also bring financial
Before
returns.
we move forward, let me even understand what your fund does.
Okay.
What does it, because I've been seeing this name everywhere, and I've been seeing what they do, but I need to understand what. At first, I thought it was a government agency initially, but just so we can have an idea of what your fund does. How does it work?
Okay, thank you.
And how does it build human capital development in the country?
Thank you. Basically, the Nigerian Capital Development Fund is an impact investment group. Mm-hmm. So when I mean impact, what is an impact investment? Every investment you do that brings you financial returns and social value. Okay. Social impact. Okay. That's why it's called impact investment. So investors does not only expect how much money you are making for them, but how much they also value the lives you are impacting along with the financial gain. So if you could not prove, because there's what they call social auditing, you have financial auditing, but we also have what is called social auditing. So in our case, we have to do 2 things to be able to attract investment. As we are trying to provide our financial report, we have to also provide social report. So we're investing into a construction. We must be able to say, this is our financial returns for your investment, and these are social return. That's what the investors, this class of investors wants to understand. Okay. So we've pioneered this in Nigeria over 15 years ago, but like I said, it's new to the society. Everybody here look at financial returns. And there is, what are the major components of the social value, the social return, the social impact we're talking about? Number one is women development. Because what is the women development? Knowledge, skill, education, and good healthcare. That's what forms the base for women development. So all our financial return is basically targeted at that. So that's where we come around, we'll be able to say, okay, these are areas where we bring financial returns, but that does not compromise social return, which will not compromise the financial return, because you must be able to pay back. But in some cases where commercial vendor is asking you to bring 30% interest rate, 26% interest rate, but because of financial returns and social returns, they could leverage on it.
Talking about bridging this gap between infrastructure development and human capital development, especially in the nation's capital, in what ways can this be done? And you can talk to us a little bit about some of the human capital work that you've done as well.
Yes, like I said earlier, the first thing is that the government needs to look into the policy of making social value requirement to award contracts. Any infrastructure, any contract that will be awarded, the private sector should provide social value, should make social value proposition.
Let's talk
We
about
should focus mostly now, because of our problem, on human development. So, if you are going to award something in Buhari, the contractor must be able to give you community engagement report of Buhari, regardless of the contract he wants to give. It's not knowing the skill. The problem is that we want to see the qualification and the skill. But we are not engaging with the community. You are not building it for yourself. You are building it for the community. So the community must be involved. So each of the projects should be community aligned, where everybody who wants to work in a specific community have a proper report on that community. So that's where you have a community engagement. Then you'll be able to have the social value proposition of that community. And that can now be designed into the business model. If you see companies like BlackRock and infrastructural partners of these big portfolios around the world, they all work with social value now. It is changing. We're still using the old model. But the biggest funds under the BlackRock today is an impact fund. The fund must be able to bring financial and social returns. In fact, JP Morgan have to set up an institute for sustainability. I'm also equally the chairman of the London School of Social Enterprise and Sustainable Economics in England. So I do have frequent stakeholders meetings about this with the global operators. And if we don't change quickly, the effort of the government will not be seen. We need to get back to the community. We detach too much. Contractor comes to a community, build and leave. That is not the way it works anymore.
the model that we've been operating in Nigeria is that we're doing infrastructure without talking to the people. So the people
just go there, you do it,
so they invested.
So they want to steal it. They want to destroy it. What's their business? Because they can't even feed. Sometimes they can't even be employed with what you're doing. But if you engage, that's what you see in the South, where you see the oil company. I think Professor Yemi Osinbajo tried to introduce that when they were in government, that all the oil producing companies should go to Rivers, should go to Port Harcourt, South as their headquarters, so that there could be community engagement, so that the community will be able to get jobs, community will be able to get internships. And how do you develop your society without carrying the people along? Which society? So the problem now is the government is doing so much, but it's not getting to the community because the value chain is broken. The president save money, he get the money to the ministry. President won't be the one to execute the project. Now, it gets to the ministry, the officers of the ministry, now they are the officers in the government, also they are the contractors sometimes, themselves, or they are friends or whatever. At the end of the day, okay, go there and build this and leave. That's the problem. And that is why we are not able to use the investment to get the social value. That's why we are not reaching to the grassroots, because we are not engaging them. It must be part of the government policy for any project under the federal, state, and FCT to have a community engagement strategy involved. So that policy must be introduced. It should be a policy to everybody in private and public sector and social sector as well. Because you see, in the United States, where they run big capitalist system and stuff like that, but you still see governments that have some non-profits who I'm also chairman of US-based foundation, which the company that I'm chair founded, Fatherland Foundation. And currently, we're working with New Jersey's council, the mayor, myself, to build a center for the youth. We are mandated because if we don't do that, and what happens, we get a tax incentive. So when Fatherland Holdings makes profit, we invest it to build the youth. The New Jersey negotiated with us. We're building the youth center. That's a deduction from our annual tax. And that's what I think the tax is part of tax reform. The people don't even understand what it means. They just come out to condemn. Those are the initiatives that can move us forward. You want to focus on doing the recurrent, just get money, pay salary, and people go. How does this youth become leaders of tomorrow when you don't give them capacity?
I mean, when it comes to the tax reforms, and that's another major conversation going on, not just in the FCT, right? It's about internally generated revenue.
Yeah.
As we try to wrap up this conversation, so maybe the reason why many government agencies stick to the old model is let's just get our returns quickly, you know. This human capital trying to help the society is abroad that they are doing this one. Can we just get our returns quickly? And you have to understand, it's a mindset that a lot of people may have. Just so they can understand, how do I make sure that I get my returns? I'm government, right? How do I get my returns and ensure that I don't go and build infrastructure that people are thinking of stealing because they haven't bought into the dream that I have? No, how do I create that balance?
First is that you as a government, you are not a business. Even if you get a return, your responsibility is to provide social services. You are not an investor. So your return, even if you get the return, what do you do with the return at the end of the day?
You throw it back in.
Of course, to the society. So that is where it is critical that social side of it, thing that is your first responsibility, should be your priority. So return, there are people are talking about, is for personal gain. Not even because of government. That is the truth. Returns for them, not returns for government. Because government is not a business enterprise that should bring return. Even if all the government agencies and parastatals or government enterprises bring returns today, what would the government do with the return? To build infrastructure, to build healthcare, to build school. So you still go back to the social system. That's why I give you an instance of the Westminster's case where they understand that even if we sell this land and collect cash, what do we still do with it? We give it back to the society. But we have organized private sector who is able to do the investment, still give us return, financial return through the taxes, but engage more than 1,200 community members. That is your role as a government.
I mean, this has been the model for your fund for the past 15 years.
Yes.
And how has it been?
Yeah, because
working with the Nigerian government, how has it been?
It's very difficult because they don't understand what you're trying to achieve. People look at you, what is he talking about? Because fundamentally, everybody is talking about personal gain. So we're having issues with that. But I believe strongly that with this new administration, both the FCT and the federal government, I think, like former President Obasanjo just said, the body language is good. And I'm sure with a lot of support from media, from private sector, from social sector, social private, I think it's just to now find a way to get these things to the community, the grassroots, whereby there will be impact. If you are in a position, you are the government official, your friend is the contractor, your people from somewhere are the workers. At the end of the day, it is still circulating within one community. But if the people are able to engage community, then it's going to be spread. The problem now is the spread. Yes, the problem now is the spread.
Well, there's never enough time to have this sort of conversations,
No,
but I hope I get to see you again.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much,
anytime.
Honorable Oralusi, for being with us on Dateline Abuja, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to my guests and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handle showing right now on your screens. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.